All right, YouTube friends, we're back with Jordan's at Martinsville. As you can see there, I have no hat or sunglasses on this week, so I won't be rapping. And Jordan, we got a bump in listenership or viewership on YouTube from the rap.
I can't tell you how many people came up to this weekend and asked me about your rap. And you know what I realized? I realized that you're probably not going to rap again on this podcast because there's probably not going to be a Bristol dirt race next year.
There'll be something else. There'll be something
Okay,
else
okay.
that
We just
pisses me
okay.
off
That's
enough
good.
at some point.
Okay,
I'm sure.
okay, good. I
Yeah.
just don't want this to die. That's all.
Well, it might. It probably should. Let's be
No, it
honest.
shouldn't.
Yeah. All
You
right,
got to give the people they want.
let's jump into the podcast here. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck, and I'm along with my coworker Jordan Bianchi, who is live at Martinsville Speedway, and I'm at home in Colorado, and we're ready to do another one of these podcasts after a Martinsville race that it was a race. I don't even know if it would rise to Jordan's level of perfectly acceptable, but it was a race that did happen. And so we're here to discuss all that went on in Kyle Larson's victory at Martinsville. So, Jordan, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, but most importantly, I want to hear your opinion on this. I think we probably differ to some degree, though I agree with you on the bigger picture here that the racing wasn't fantastic. I don't think I'm screaming from the mountaintop like maybe some other people are, maybe you're going to be. I do think there needs to be something done. This is worrisome that Martinsville's all of a sudden turned into what it is. But I'm trying to look on the bright side of things.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's sort of like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
I've heard that a lot in my life.
Yeah, have you? Look, I don't think there's any reason to have sort of outrage about it, because at this point, what can be done? This is, they tried to tweak the short track package as best they could without changing the entire car. Phoenix, it felt like some drivers said, hey, maybe there's something here. Richmond, maybe it felt like that made that a little bit better race, but unfortunately at Martinsville, I mean, you had responses ranging from Chase Briscoe saying, oh, I think it made it about 10% better, to Kyle Larson saying, it felt the same to me. And if you had told me it was the exact same as last year, I would have agreed with you. Denny Hamlin after the race said what I think a lot of people felt watching the race, which was that it's a track position race. It's clean air race. This is what you have with the next gen era at short tracks, is what we've been saying. Unfortunately, and unfortunately as well, they've pulled the levers that they're going to be able to pull at this point anytime soon. It was, it's just not sort of the Martinsville that you remember. And the farther it gets from that, I guess it's easy to forget that Martinsville was once a race full of action and constant cautions and constant, stuff. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that to me is the biggest thing, is the lack of cautions. Like there was a few today, and I don't have the number in front of me, but there was not
five. There was five today.
Was that including the stage cautions?
Including the stage caution. So you had Harrison Burton's spin, you had the caution for the tire coming off, and then you had the JJ Yaley incident.
Okay. So you had like two contact cautions, I guess you want to call them that. That to me is the big thing, is you didn't have that. You didn't have drivers getting into each other and spinning each other out and piling into each other and all of that. That element of this race was absent, and that was what I think was so sorely missing from this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, look, I guess if you never knew or thought much about, if you weren't aware of NASCAR short track racing previously, before the fast, couple years, I guess, you'd say, oh, it was fine, whatever. But when you think about like all the sort of great action filled, I was going back through the amount of, some of these past Martinsville races, from years past, and looking at the caution numbers, and I think I tweeted, it was like 36 of 38 Martinsville races at one point had double digit cautions, and like 16 of those were 15 or more cautions in a race, which you watch this race today and you go, how is that possible? But that's, that was NASCAR short track racing. That was why Martinsville and Bristol and places like that got so popular. And so I think now when you see, I mean, it's not just the cautions, right? Because it's you see sort of just this inability to make big moves through the field. I mean, Ryan Preece, he starts out front, right? And you don't know how good his car was, but it seemed pretty good because all of Stewart-Haas, they were pretty good, all 4 cars.
Great
He
day for
leads the first 135 laps, right? And so you're thinking, wow, okay. Then he gets a speeding penalty, and he spends the entire race basically trying to get back into the top 20. On that last run there, he ends up getting back up to 15th. And that was as high as he ever got the rest of the day after completely dominating the first part of this race with a really fast car. Hamlin again says afterwards, like he and Harvick were in good position, and that caution comes out, strategy, whatever, bad timing for them, unfortunate. But, they had to pit again. I mean, I guess they could have stayed out and rolled the dice with the tires. But, then he says, well, then I can't pass cars that I was just lapping 10 laps ago. I'm stuck behind them. And again, that's what you heard all day long. It's, you see these cars get speeding penalties or whatever. They got to go to the back. That's it. You never sort of hear from them again. Meanwhile, if you're able to sort of get some great track position with the bad car, like Joey Logano was a complete non-factor in this race, right? Complete non-factor.
Same with Chastain.
Yeah, and Logano ends up finishing second, and had maybe if Larson is not as aggressive there, and Logano just blocks, and he had to move Logano to get by. I don't know, maybe Logano wins the race somehow, but that's not what. Okay, he finished second. I'm just saying.
I know he did, but I mean, you look at it earlier though. Chastain was in that same position, and he ended up sliding backwards after like 30 or 40 laps. Like the tires did eventually fall off at some point. And I think Larson was in a really good spot. And I asked this question to you earlier, and I think it's worth discussing. Is this a package thing, or is this a tire issue? Because to me, I look at this and say, when you're at Martinsville and you have drivers who are able to either take no tires or 2 tires and then maintain their spots for at least a small short run, that to me screams tire issue, and that there's just not the tire wear that is necessary.
I mean, I think certainly you can't argue that, right? Like, I mean, the tires could certainly, I think everybody would like a little bit more fall off, but at the same time, I think the tire and package thing is sort of related, right? Like the way this car is designed, it seems like Goodyear, as they have been, are in sort of a box with what they can do. Obviously they're trying to make a tire that doesn't blow out and go flat like we saw last year. We kept saying, oh my gosh, these tires are going flat. This is terrible, right? They're trying to build a tire that you can race on, and I'm sure you want wear, but I just think it's all tied together. I mean, it's just what this car is. It's sort of the base platform of this car. Package, if you're referring to like the aero package or whatever they can do to it, I think that I don't know if they've maxed it out already, but that spoiler is already pretty tiny. I mean, you're going to have to redesign parts of the car at this point, which is going to take a long time. And I know you were trying to get interviews in the garage, but Dustin Long asked an incredibly revealing question that sort of popped my eyes open to Jeff Andrews of Hendrick Motorsports, who Jeff Andrews, really made his name in the engine side before becoming, the head of Hendrick, right? And, Dustin had come off pit road, right, where more drivers are saying, hey, we need more horsepower. That would really help this. We need more horsepower so we can get off the corners and, race each other and all this stuff. So he asked Jeff Andrews, well, is it possible to get more horsepower with the current, with the way the engines are now? Is it even possible? And second of all, what would it take to do that? And Jeff Andrews said, it is possible, but you have to understand the parts that we're ordering like 6 months to a year out based on this current engine right now. So if you wanted to change the package, even for next year, if you wanted to say, hey, we need to get more horsepower, if NASCAR decided that right now for next year, Jeff Andrews said, time is about out. You would have to decide it like right now, because he said it's to do the parts for that you would require to basically redo the engines and add more horsepower. Those are like a year to 18 months out, you would have to order those. Right. That was my reaction watching it. Like, wow. So this is, I think this is sort of the thing. Like, this is what this is why it's sort of just disappointing at this point, right? Because we could come here and say, NASCAR short track racing has been ruined. Where is the short track racing that we love? They need to do something. At this point, unless you're going to do whatever to the car, and then that's going to be a whole other thing, you know, because we already know how hard it is to get parts for the cars and all that stuff. And you'd have to redesign it. I think this is just sort of what they have. And that's sort of why it's a bummer, because it's not, you can't just say, I'm going to get mad at you and start yelling about this until you do something. I just think this is the box everybody's in at this point. And if something's going to get sort of fixed at short tracks, it ain't coming anytime soon. And so that's just sort of like oh man, that's a bummer. That's a bummer. That's all. That's how I feel about it, you know?
I think it's more than a bummer. I mean, it's a serious issue for a lot of reasons. And that's why I do wonder, like, when you have this car and the car, what it is, like, maybe, hopefully, and maybe I'm speaking out of my mouth, you know, speaking wrong here, like maybe you figure out a way to do something with the tires. Because if you create a tire that has more fall off, and that would be the only way that you could maybe save short track racing at this point, where drivers are going to have to manage their tires. Otherwise, it goes back to what you said. That to me is the only lever I feel like you can pull at this point. Because I don't know, to your point, and we've heard it from other people say that, you know, publicly and privately, like you can't really do a whole lot here. Also, the manufacturers don't necessarily want lower downforce, or I'm sorry, higher horsepower.
Yeah.
Higher horsepower. So to me, I just go back to the tires. Like, that seems like that's maybe the last possible solution. Other than that, it is what it is.
Yeah. And so, you know, I had a lot of people in my mentions today, Jordan, during the race, and saying, imagine getting mad about Bristol dirt, but liking this, basically. And I didn't love this, but at the same time, it certainly weakens my argument, right? Like, if I'm going to say, no, get rid of Bristol dirt because you got to give us back pavement, you know, concrete Bristol, you know.
That Bristol dirt race was, no offense, Jeff, I was more entertained by that race last week than this week.
Well, and that's a problem. That's a big problem. I mean, again, as we sit here today, some of the biggest high-profile events coming up remaining this season are with this package that was hoped to sort of help the racing. You've got the North Wilkesboro All-Star race, and there, hopefully the track is rough enough that the tires do wear out, and that's what makes the difference. But, you know, seeing this doesn't give you a ton of optimism for that. And then you've got, I mean, I don't know if you want to throw sort of the Chicago street course in there with this, you know, it is the same package. Again, it's not a short track, but, you know, it's sort of like that needs to be a good race. Obviously, the Martinsville semifinal race in the fall needs to be a good race. The Phoenix Championship race needs to be a good race. All those races with this package. So,
yeah,
you know,
you just need a good product regardless. Like, doesn't matter. You know, I would say, if you look at the current situation with TV ratings and NASCAR's place and everything, like, you just need a good product. You need a product where people feel confident that they're going to turn in, whether it doesn't matter the track, super speedway, intermediate, short track, dirt, whatever. Like, hey, you know what? They're going to put on a good show today. And I don't feel like, I just feel like there's that doubt right now. There's a big question mark. You don't know what you're going to get week to week. And while that's good on some levels of maybe unpredictability and different winners, when it comes to that in the racing, that's a little scary.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think after sort of today, I'm not saying I'm not going to harp on this again, but I think that we sort of have the answer now. Yeah. You know, we've seen this short track swing now. We've seen Phoenix. The questions going into the season of, will this help? After the preseason Phoenix test where they tried this and everything, like, you know, is it going to work? You know, unfortunately, we've sort of seen the results, and going forward, I don't think we should expect I don't think anybody should have really high expectations going into any of the short track race. If somehow it's a great race, great, that's wonderful. I think everybody wants that.
Like we had at Richmond, I thought Richmond was good, but
that had a lot more to do in a way with the strategy.
Sure.
There, I mean, that was fine. But anyway, so yeah, it's really, I guess that's just sort of the state of the package. I don't really know what else there's to say about that part. I mean, we can just talk about the race, unless you want to talk more about it. But
I don't know what you can do. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like we're out of things to talk about in this because we've talked about it. We've talked about it now for a long while, and I think you make a really good point when you say they're about out of levers. And I think I don't know. And why I hear drivers say more horsepower, like that, to me isn't a realistic solution because that doesn't meet what the three OEMs want. And at the end of the day, if that's not what they want, they're going to get that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
sorry.
I wish I could come on here and be like, I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here. I know that.
I mean, there was things today I thought were good. I mean, I will say I did not think this race was as bad as last year's race. Like, I don't even think it was close. I do think that there was more positive to take away from this than last year. Maybe because I wasn't freezing on pit road after the race, but I did think at times there was some good racing and there was some passing. You didn't just see one guy completely run away with it like we did last year. You saw Denny Hamlin make moves. You saw Joey Logano come from the back. You saw Ryan Blaney come from the back. And so at least there was some of that there. I don't know. Maybe I'm grasping at straws.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was I was kind of going into it thinking, man, if this is sort of, if this race could use some, an injection of excitement, and then it's close at the end, like, the second place car is within a second or two of the leader, and they're, you would have been like, well, what if they hadn't been, ban the Hail Melon, what would have happened? As it turns out, Larson won by 4.1 seconds over Logano. So even if Logano had tried to do a Hail Melon on the last lap, it wouldn't. So that was a non-factor. That didn't make a difference. It was just I don't know. I mean, there was definitely, you definitely had some cautions that caution for the tire really mixed things up. People were really mad about that on Twitter. This might surprise you, but I'm not actually like super pissed about that caution or anything. Like,
that blows my mind.
Okay, here's why. Now you know that NASCAR is up there in the tower watching the race. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Should they, yes, the tire was sitting on the track for 2 laps. People are screaming about it, right? Not good. I'm not saying that's good whatsoever.
That sounds like you are.
Somebody could have punted it, and that would have been a terrible situation. Ideally, somebody spots that, right? I'm just saying though, like, we already know based on, like, you remember last year when the Hamlin Byron thing happened at Texas, happened right in front of the NASCAR scoring tower, right below them on the infield grass, where Byron intentionally turns Hamlin. Then NASCAR issues a penalty afterwards because Scott Miller comes out and says, hey, look, we just missed it. We just missed it. And at the time we said, oh my gosh, how'd they miss that? TV was talking about it. It was all over TV. TV had the replays. TV was talking about it instantly, like this was on purpose. How do you miss that? We learned at the time, or it was reaffirmed at the time, they're not watching TV. They have various camera angles. They're watching the race. And we said at the time, maybe somebody should be in the tower assigned to watch TV.
That's what
I still think after today, again, would be a great.
Let's find an intern and sit them in front of the television, and their job is to monitor.
And go, hey, you guys see this? Because Fox,
right here, guys. Yeah.
FS1 was locked onto that tire, and it looked like the flagman was looking right at it. At the same time, though, like, okay, clearly it was up against the wall. It was
it's hard to see. It was in a spot where if you're in the tower, especially here, like, some tracks a little bit, but here, like your point, it was in the shadows on a turn floor. It's not in a very easy spot for those up in the tower, though. There are people in the turns, though, right? Like, that's where I get a little bit lost. This, like, where were the turn spotters? Sure. And not to mention, like, the flag person and the person in the flag stand, like, they're seemingly looking at that.
It looked like it, right?
Yeah. So that's where you lose me a little bit, where I have questions of, like, okay, I get you're not watching TV. I understand maybe you can't see it up in the tower in that angle, but where are your folks in the top? Where are your folks on the track, on the ground, and where was the flag person? That's where the disconnect is.
Like I wasn't there. Maybe if I saw it with my own eyes, it would be different. But just listening to the radios and you're hearing, oh, somebody lost a tire. There's a tire on the track or whatever. To me, if I thought a tire came off the track and I was scanning for it, right, I would be looking for something bouncing around or something rolling, something like that, not a tire sitting right up against the wall in a shadow, sort of. So that's, again, like, am I saying this is ideal? No, of course not at all. I wish they had seen it. It's not good at all. I mean, but I don't think it was a case of like, oh,
negligence.
Let's try to let this play out like the tire on the infield grass. Like they didn't see it. So
I don't think it was negligence. I just think it was one of those things. And also say like 2 laps at Martinsville go pretty quick. Like it's not like this is 2 laps at Texas or some other track where it's bigger. This is a half-mile track. Like it's 2 laps go in a snap of a finger. So I'm willing to let this go. I'm not willing to like sit here and scream and call it for NASCAR's head. It just seems like this would be something you'd pick up. But sometimes officials miss. Sometimes officials miss calls. Even the obvious ones.
Well, it certainly hurt Brad Keselowski because he pitted.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, what bad timing for him. I mean, and that's the thing too. Like we scream all the time, or at least I do. I guess I shouldn't say you. When I say we, I shouldn't say. I guess I'm talking about me and people with like-minded thinking, not you necessarily, Jordan Bianchi.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But we scream all the time about like we don't want NASCAR to sort of manipulate the race or interrupt it in a way, especially during a cycle of green flag pit stops, because that changes the outcome of the race, right? So I don't have a problem in this case. They clearly heard on the radio, they start looking for it, but they had to make extra sure as well that was in the middle of green. If they press it right away and they're not without even seeing it, I mean, that's
you have to visually identify it. You can't just,
because that's messing up. That is, people are using the strategy right then. People are pitting right then. And it's still altered the strategy based on the timing, but I don't know. You can look at a few days gone south there. Maybe the race could have turned out differently.
But it helped Logano, helped Truex, helped Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney. I think Chase Elliott's in that group as well, where it turned around.
Well, I think you could argue Larson's not going to win the race without that, right? Because he takes the 2 tires there.
Very fair. Very fair.
It's probably going to be Hamlin or Harvick, because Harvick,
maybe Briscoe, yeah.
Harvick he had just come out ahead of Hamlin. He jumped Hamlin. And if he didn't pit, did he get the flat tire right after that? Or he got the flat tire the second time? Yeah.
He made the second pit stop. Yeah. Yes.
Right. So if if he doesn't come out back down pit road again, but that triggers the whole sequence. If it runs green there, Hamlin has to pass Harvick for the win. And those two are battling it out, which would have been pretty interesting. I don't know how it would have turned out, but obviously Harvick ends up 20th and Hamlin ends up 4th. So
cautions have potentially cost Kevin Harvick in his final season 2 wins this year. You go back to Phoenix and you go back to then today, and in your final season when you haven't won a race yet, you kind of want you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, and Rodney Childers tweeted afterwards, best car we've ever had at Martinsville.
Yeah. This is one of the few tracks they've not won at as a team in 10 years, which is saying something because they've won a lot of places.
Let's talk about SHR real quick, just while we're on the Harvick subject, because and on the one hand, if you're SHR, you go, wow, like we came out here and we showed something today. We had 4 potential winning cars. You feel really good about your speed. You feel like, man, like, okay, hey, like maybe we're not as far off. Like maybe we can go to some of these tracks and do something, right? On the other hand, what you look at the results and at the end you go, what do we do with our 4 potential winning cars? We got 1 top 5 out of it, 1 5th place finish out of it. Chase Briscoe.
Eric Almirola would agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw him in the garage and he had a face of a man who did not have the results he wanted today. Like he was displeased because, like your point, like he's like, we had fast cars, didn't finish it, didn't close it out, got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, that's the thing.
That's the
You
thing.
can build up sort of like these narratives of like, wow, like, hey, positive step in the right direction. This is great. Like for Ryan Preece and stuff like that. But in the end, like, you know, you hate to do it because it's professional sports. You hate to look at it like this, but Ryan Preece with that speeding penalty, that potentially could have been a season altering caution for him. If he does not, or a season altering penalty for him, sorry, not caution. If he does not speed, who knows what happens in the race? But he's going to be up there for most of the day probably, and potentially he wins and makes the playoffs. Instead, he finishes 15th, has nothing to show for it really. He won a stage, but that ain't going to do it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like he is, I don't even know where he is in points.
I think he was 27th coming into today.
Yes,
But
he is.
thought,
He is still 27th.
okay. So, and
So
I talked to him post race, and to his credit, he owned it. Like he 100% owned it. Like that's
sure.
on me, my fault. I can't do that. We can't have those kind of mistakes. And he was frustrated with himself. And kudos to him for owning it. There was no excuses. But you've got to win. He knows he has to win to get in the playoffs. Your only path to get there is win. And this was your best shot. And this has been a pattern a little bit this year with him and that team, where they've had speed at times, but for either one reason or another, whether it's mistakes that they make or it's mechanical failures or bad luck, they haven't had the corresponding finishes. And you know, you don't know if you're that team, you can't say, hey, we're gonna get them the next week or the week after that, because you don't know, because it hasn't consistently been there. So this was tough, and this is one of those you might look back on and say, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and this could be the big difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. And when you're SHR and you know, you call it the big four in the garage, right? Well, the big four lately has been the big three, and then Kevin Harvick, and then the other three SHR drivers are on their own little island. It's you just these days like this don't come around too often for this organization.
well, that's right, and I think it's, you know, especially when you think, okay, Ryan Preece, short track specialist, right? Like Martinsville it's almost similar to AJ Allmendinger at the road courses in a way, right?
Yeah,
And if you would have
absolutely.
said like, hey, AJ Allmendinger, you know, was in position to win and something happened, and you know, maybe that was his chance at the playoffs gone. You know, Ryan Preece isn't going to be leading 135 laps every week, at least based on what we've seen. So when you have that, and Chase Briscoe led 109 laps today too, his teammate. I mean, when you let those days slip away and you're having a tough season or an inconsistent season, at least it's just like, woof, that really hurts. I mean, it really, there's only 17 races left until the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean,
but and to take your point, if Ryan Preece is a short track specialist, and that's an interesting point we can touch on again, is like you look at it. Well, there's no more Bristol. Next Bristol race isn't until after the playoffs start. The next Martinsville race isn't until after the playoffs start. So now you're putting your eggs in the basket at Richmond, and I would throw probably New Hampshire in there as well, because
which SHR has had a magical day there in the past. So.
and he's got a lot of laps there and a lot of cars and done really well there. So like you're all of a sudden your list is much shorter than it was. And it's interesting. And I think to the point about specialization, I do think we're kind of in this era. I think we even talked about this after Stenhouse won at Daytona. It's like you can maybe get a driver now who's good at 5 or 6 or a certain type of racetrack, whether it's super speedways where there's 5 in the regular season, or road courses when there's 5 in the regular season. Like, hey, we're going all in on this because we know we really believe our guy is going to get one of those 5 and get us in the playoff. The downside of that is, though, when you shoot yourself in the foot or you don't get that win, your other opportunities to get wins elsewhere quickly diminishes.
It's so, you know, when you look at something like the pre-speeding penalty in particular, right? It wasn't like he wasn't watching his lights. It wasn't like he was being careless, so to speak, right? He was going down pit road. He had the first pit stall, and you know they've taken away that main pit stall, right? Like they took it away. So now the first pit stall is really the second pit stall. So there's more room before the timing line. So he finishes his pit stop, and he guns it, of course, to try to beat the cars off pit road. Unfortunately, there was just too much more room, and it allowed him to speed. If he was in that true traditional first pit stall, no worries, he's not going to speed. No matter what you do, you're not going to get up fast enough to speed. And that's all it took. And that's it. Crazy.
Yeah, Yeah, that's the nature of the beast. And I
Yep.
think that team is, they had a really fast car the week before at Bristol, and it went sideways for them there. And it's been a few times. You go back to the Clash. That's a non-points race, but the same thing. Really fast race car. Remember, we were all impressed with Ryan Preece, and then mechanical failure towards the end. It's just that's kind of how it's gone for him so far.
You want to close that door behind you?
I don't know. Somebody came in here. There's like equipment in here. Camera, hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna fall. Hang on. Good Lord. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Seriously. Oh boy.
That would have been a good YouTube highlight
Hang
right
on.
there,
I can't hear
Jordan.
you.
I said that would have been a good YouTube highlight if you fell right there trying to close the door.
Okay, what was that? I should have slid my chair back more, but thought I had longer arms than it was. Thought it would be easier than it was.
You know, I'm just impressed that you found a place to record at Martinsville. Martinsville it's got to be, if not P1 and the hardest places to find to record a podcast, it's got to be in the top 3.
Atlanta's still got number 1 because I had to be in a room.
You were in the storage closet there. Yeah.
At least I was able to get a radio room here. It's they take care of me here at Martinsville. They like me here.
That's good. And you're not in the storage closet, so that's good.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Though it was nice being in the storage closet in Atlanta, because like during the podcast I got thirsty. I literally was just able to reach down and grab a water out of the case of water that my computer was sitting on. So that was a nice benefit.
It's a beautiful thing. Yes.
Yeah, take advantage of the situation.
Listen, Kyle Larson once said, I think he even made a quip after he maybe I'm misremembering this. Remember he had passed out he had fainted one time in an autograph session. And he missed the race, didn't he? Didn't he miss the race?
Yeah, filled it for him. Yep, last minute.
And he basically said, if there's any place that would be good that this happened, it'd be Martinsville, because I hate this place. Even after the race today, he was saying, there's been times where he wanted this place to flood. He wanted all sorts of bad things to happen. And, this was like his probably least favorite track, or his biggest challenge for all the tracks.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about it, and again, Dustin Long with a great line of questioning here. He got Larson to say how much it meant to him, because Larson is naturally talented, right? And a lot of his career, especially on the dirt side, and especially early in NASCAR as well, was basically he was doing stuff based on his talent. His talent got him to have those victories. It was largely on that. It wasn't like he was having to study or work hard and things like that. Like, yeah, he put some work into it, but he was like, hey, I can just go out. I'll just go out and drive. Martinsville is sort of the one track more than any other that he has put a ton of work into. Like, he has studied and worked to make himself better. And as a result, he ends up winning today, right? And it just seems to me like he even said he got emotional and teary at the end. It was a situation where it meant so much to him. And he said it was in, I think he said it was the top 7. I don't know how he came up with that number, 7 wins of his entire career, because he couldn't, it wasn't just his talent. I mean, he had to pour himself and the effort and run hundreds of laps on sim and look at data and all that stuff. And because of that, it really resonated with him. It really meant a lot to him. So to see him win this race, it's sort of like, wow, it's because it's scary. You have athletes all over, this is across any sport, right? You'll have an NBA player they're pretty talented and they don't really have to work hard. And then you have sort of like the scrappy players who maybe don't have that much talent, but they have the effort and the hustle. Yeah. Like who?
I'm at me, example. I'm a gritty guy.
Okay, well, there you go. Like, you lack the talent, but you're grinding, right?
You're the superstar, and
Oh, I thought you were talking about in your pickup basketball. You're talking about writing?
Yeah.
Oh, this is not a good example. You're a star. You're a star. You're breaking every news story. You're not. Anyway. But when you get the talent plus the work ethic, sort of the Michael Jordan-esque type thing, right? Like, Michael Jordan didn't just like, all right, I'm good and I don't have to work at it.
He's the hardest worker on his team, period.
Right, exactly, right? So when you take Larson's talent level, which is already base level starting higher than most people, and then you add in the work ethic, where he can win at a place like Martinsville, where he said all the time that he sucked. He was depressed driving up there because he didn't want to race there. That's big. So it's just sort of like, there's a lot of untapped potential, amazingly, still left for Kyle Larson, which is pretty scary to think about.
Really scary. And this is one of the reasons I like Martinsville, because I do think there's a nuance to it that a lot of other tracks don't have, where you really have to have a lot of laps here and experience. You've heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. talk about how it took him following, I think it was Jimmy Johnson once, around here to figure it out. This is a pure driving track, like a driver's track, where it's just a driver can make such a difference. And I feel like a driver can carry an average car to being good and a good car being great. And seeing somebody put in that effort is great, because there is a lot of very talented drivers in the garage. And probably shouldn't name names, maybe, or we should, I don't know. But there's a lot of talented drivers in the garage who probably don't put in a lot of work. We know they don't put in the work, and they're leaving a lot on the table. And Larson's not that way. And he continues to grind and put in the time. And say what you want about all the extra, running the dirt stuff and whether you think he should or not. But that to me is a drive. I don't maybe not agree with it, but I respect him willing to do that, because he feels like it makes him better. And when you're running all these races around the country because you feel like that's going to make you better on Sundays, that to me, that speaks volumes about him. And to your point, when you already mix a guy who's got all this talent with a work ethic, like, that's scary, because that's a very, very high ceiling for him then.
Well, it's fascinating you say that about Martinsville, because that's always been my thinking, like that, good drivers at Martinsville, like we're going to see a lot of the same guys. But what was particularly stunning, I think, about this race was it sort of flipped on its head a lot of sort of the names that we thought were good last year in a way, right? Like, for instance, last fall, which is not that long ago, Christopher Bell comes, and it's, same car, different package, but same car. And, he wins the race and does so fairly convincingly. It got overshadowed by the Hail Melon, but, it was like, wow, Bell. Okay. Today, Bell, not a factor whatsoever.
Non-factor, complete non-factor.
Yeah. And ends up finishing 16th, but I mean, really, like, yeah, had nothing. You look at some of the other drivers today. I mean, the William Byron thing blows me away, because I guess maybe he had something going wrong late in the race, something mechanical, maybe.
Yeah, he thought an engine was going or something.
Yeah, and then there was also a bad pit stop, which I think somebody fell down at some point, and it cost him some track position. But William Byron in practice just yesterday had, on all the metrics for the most part, the fastest car, right? Like, you're looking at Byron and you're like, wow, that is really impressive, especially because he had gone out in the second practice group, which was largely slower. Almost everybody was slower than the first group. And yet he had gone out in the second group and he had, 15 lap average, 20, all the stuff, right? He looked really good, really, really good. And then the race starts and he just starts going backwards. Yeah. He immediately lost 3 spots in the opening laps, got passed by Larson pretty early. And it was like, whoa, this is weird. And I don't really think he ever really got higher than maybe 9th or 10th again, which was so odd. Like that was really bizarre to me. Again, a guy that last year in this race was, dominant. It was just a few guys today where I was just like, what is happening? Kyle Busch was totally off today. Totally off. Like, they never had it at all. He just pretty much went backwards the whole day, even before his penalty for the equipment thing. Like, they were going backwards. It was just, I don't know. There was like a lot of weird things. I mean, Chastain was way out to lunch until they tried the strategy. But like, didn't he get lapped at one point?
He did go lap down. Did he go actually fall lap down? I know.
Maybe he was almost getting lapped by Priest or something.
Priest was on his bumper and couldn't pass him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But, I mean, you're right. And if I look back at last, to Kyle, Larson finished second in this race a year ago. I'm sorry, last fall, 68 laps. Briscoe was up there. Hamlin was up there. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting race because the guys you expected to do well Blaney was kind of a non-factor today. He used strategy to get up there. Bubba Wallace, who thought was going to be better, he had to use strategy to get up there.
Well, he was running okay for a while, and then he had a penalty. He had a speeding penalty, but
he did, and then but he was never able to.
no,
he
but that
didn't
was
have-
because of the track. I mean, that was
so,
track positions, everything, clean air.
so.
Bowman
Truex
Bowman made
was able to
some.
overcome his speeding penalty.
Well, but I mean, a big part of the yes, Truex was making gains at the end, but he was the one on 4 tires. I think he had 4 fresh tires and was coming up through the field of guys that didn't have the same tires that he did. So I think that's why he was able to make some passes. But yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, okay, let's say we're fast forwarding now to October, and we're previewing the Martinsville race of like, oh, who's going to be good? Like, I have no idea, because I wouldn't think like the Hendrick cars weren't dominant. Like, yeah, they won. Larson won, but he wasn't going to win the race. Even Jeff Andrews said afterwards, we've got a lot of work to do before we come back here in the fall for our entire organization. I mean,
I think
Larson,
the only driver you could feel confident in would probably be Denny Hamlin, because he's usually more often than not pretty good here. Arguably had the winning car today, was fast last fall.
yeah, I'm looking at, I mean, maybe you say, oh, SHR can do it again, but
do you believe that though?
I don't know. I don't know if we've seen enough to trust them on that. Penske was just as a whole. Yeah.
They've been off. Like they've split. Like their performance kind of overall. Like, I mean, Logano, you're gonna look at the results today and you're gonna be like, Blaney finished well, Logano finished well, but you need to look deeper than that. They just have not. Earlier this year, they had speed in the race cars. They were, and now they don't have speed in the race cars, and it's gone. And it's a weird spot for them right now. And I don't know.
Well, just wait till one of them wins Talladega next week.
Blaney very well could. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and Cindric could too, and Logano certainly could. But it's just, I didn't buy the narrative. We talked about it at Atlanta with Paul Wolf of like, hey, we really needed this win. But like, they weren't that far off. Like Logano was leading the points at one point. I mean, it wasn't like they were running horribly. I feel like it was a little bit of a Chicken Little thing. But now, like it's pull the alarm. Like they're not running well. They're definitely off. And again, it's early and things can change. But Blaney especially has had an odd year where there's something missing there. That's I don't know what that is, but I don't know if it's mechanically. I don't know if it's other reasons, but that team is just not operating to where you would expect them to be.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. used strategy to get 8th place finish today, and they needed that. They have back-to-back top 10s.
What a year! So. What a years he's had. Like obviously one Daytona 500, you've had a great year, but take that aside, like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is consistently doing things that we frankly never thought he was going to do. Like this is a level of consistency he's never had before. He's finishing. I think his average finish right now is higher than it would ever be. He's doing well. He's not putting himself in bad position. He's not overdriving the car. Like they're doing a really, really good job of week in and week out, regardless of the track, of running top 15 and sometimes punching above their weight class and getting top 10s. Like kudos to them. They are really, really doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Stenhouse is 13th in points. I mean, he's ahead of Briscoe. I mean, Byron would be ahead of. I guess if you take away the Byron penalty, he would be 14th in points. But still, I mean, he's ahead of Suarez. He's ahead of Cindric, Bubba Wallace, Dillon. So yeah, I mean, there's some, for what our expectations were, they're certainly outperforming there. And I will say too, shame for Todd Gilliland. He ends up finishing 25th because I guess he dropped a cylinder at one point, but he was having another great run. I mean, he was really doing, I mean, he's up to second for a while. He looked really good. He looked confident. He was racing with some of the big boys. He was going for he was going for a 5th straight top 15 finish. And going into Talladega too, you would think that he could be a factor there. Front row cars are always.
It's a weird thing though, like next week, and this is part of the weird thing, is like he's not going to be with his normal team next week. They're going to put him with Zane Smith's truck.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And front row is going to run 3 cars, but instead of saying, okay, we're going to run 3 cars, we're just going to give Zane Smith his normal Truck Series team, kind of like what they did at Daytona. No, like Zane Smith's getting Todd's team, and then Todd's going to the truck team, and it's like I wrote about this in the Athletic, and I don't think it can be said enough. Like what he is doing this year, a second-year driver with a team that is, a mid-level team who doesn't have the resources. He's been kicked out of his ride. He's figuring this out, and he's consistently running well. Like if I'm a team owner right now and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, you know what? I can go get Todd Gilliland. I probably don't have to pay him a lot of money. Like I'm going to get a guy in my race car who's going to do some things and is probably going to continue to get better with experience. And it would be a really easy situation for a young driver to do the woe is me, all of this stuff and get their head down and just kind of let things spiral. Like he's doing the opposite. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, between Gilliland and LaJoie, you've definitely had a couple guys who have come out and said, look, okay, we don't have the fastest rides, but we're going to prove ourselves and try to, just get finishes, take what we can get, outperform expectations in a way, and try to see if we can parlay that into something for next year. So far, I mean, look, these things can come and go very easily too. You gotta keep riding it while you can. And one or two bad races can make somebody spiral, and then all of a sudden their stock kind of drops. But right now, I think Gilliland and Corey LaJoie are still two names that people are talking about, at least free agent market, or they should be.
They should be.
So,
I mean, somebody told me last week that they're like somebody's going to get a really. They told me someone is going to get a really good driver in Todd Gilliland, and if people are paying attention, he's somebody that an owner should go after. And it's gonna be interesting to see how this shakes out and whether or not what the situation is.
Yep, for sure. Well, what else should we talk about with this race? I don't know. I feel like we've kind of gone through some of the running order.
Chase Elliott.
Oh, did he come back this week?
You didn't realize that?
Are you sure he came back this week? I hadn't heard anything about that.
You didn't hear anything? Oh, wow. Yeah, no, he came back this week. This was his first race back. He missed a few races apparently with an injury.
You're kidding me.
I'm kidding you. No, I am being serious. He raced today. I kid you not. You didn't hear
Chase Elliott's back?
You would think that NASCAR would have promoted it or Fox would have promoted it or something. They didn't. Oh my God,
this is the problem. They've got to promote their stars.
Yeah.
Gosh, NASCAR, make some TV commercials, do some how about an email blast?
Social media promotions, yeah. So social media, maybe maybe it's a ticket
promote some tweets, send some text to your fans, something. Yeah. Nobody knew. Put them on a national media show.
Last minute thing, maybe it was. I don't know.
Maybe he didn't have time to put a plan together or something.
Finished 10th.
He really?
Yeah. No, seriously, came back, finished 10th. I know.
Wow.
It's hard. It was hard to miss it. I know. If you weren't paying attention, you would have missed it.
I'm sorry. I did not hear about this at all. I would have brought it up earlier in the podcast, but I had no idea he was even. That's crazy. Wow. Well, that's great. I'm glad he's better. He is the most popular driver, and everybody says that once he comes back, everything's going to be great again. So I think that will be wonderful. The TV ratings need a boost. So I'm sure that Chase Elliott being back will, I think that will certainly bring a lot of eyeballs back. I don't know if it will bring the 500, 600,000 people that for whatever reason have not been watching on a weekly basis compared to last year, but certainly it's got to be good for something.
Exactly. It's got to be good for something. I'm curious to see. We've always talked about what the impact is of the star drivers, right? This might be our best gauge we've ever had, maybe since Dale's been out, right? Of what that impact is, and if there's a bump because Chase is back, and I know you and I off podcast have had this conversation a lot about television ratings and stuff, and I've been over the last few weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with people in the industry I don't know the answer. I don't know why the ratings are where they're at. There's a lot of theories, and I think there's probably a little bit of truth and kind of a little bit of in everything. And so I do think maybe Chase being out has impacted to some degree, though I question it because I look at the Daytona 500 and I look at Fontana, and both those races were down, and Chase raced in both of those races. So maybe there is a Chase Elliott a bump of some level, but I don't know if it is to what some people have hung their hat on. And I'm curious to see what that is. And if the bump is minimal, or there is no bump, going back to something an analogy you used earlier, what levers do you pull?
Well, here's the thing. Like in all honesty and in sincerity, I just cannot for the life of me fathom that even 100,000 people would have said, you know what, my favorite driver's out, so I'm just not going to watch at all. I'm not going to watch to see how his car does, how his teammates do, how my other favorite drivers do. The only reason I was watching was to see this guy go around the track, and if he's not in the race, I'm not going to watch. Let alone 500,000 people. I just can't. I just don't. I just don't see it. Now, maybe this is not true, but I did right when Chase was out, I did a survey of Chase Elliott fans. Right now, granted, these are pretty hardcore people. If they're in my orbit, that I was able to reach out to them or get them to participate in the poll, or whatever, right? But I asked people, and this was an anonymous. They didn't have to put their name on it, but like, what will you do while he's out? One of the options was like, yeah, I won't be watching at all. But I don't think if I'm not mistaken, I need to go back and look. Not one person picked that. Like, everybody said, well, I will root for whoever's in the 9, or I'll root for my other drivers instead, or I'll just watch and enjoy, but nobody said, I'm not going to watch. So the idea that all these missing viewers compared to last year are not watching because of Chase Elliott, I just don't. I mean, look, we'll find out on Tuesday or whenever the ratings come out. If suddenly the ratings are back to even again, it's like, oh, wow, I guess that guy really does have a lot of pull. But I just don't. I don't see it, because that didn't, like you said, that kind of drop didn't even happen with Dale Jr. or Jeff Gordon or Tony Stewart when they left or retired. And
explain the Daytona 500 to me. Explain Fontana to me. That's what I keep coming back to. Of like, I'm not diminishing his popularity, but I just don't think that there was this mass exodus. To your point, I agree with you.
Yeah,
There's other issues at play, a lot of issues, and I don't. I mean, again,
yeah, those
it's maybe
I don't really understand. I'll be honest, I don't
either. I don't get it. Like,
I mean, yes, like last year did have a lot of storylines. It sort of was an extraordinary year, but that's a big chunk of people to be losing every week, and I don't think that. I mean, it's not like, the broadcast booth has been the same. The car has been the same. It's largely the same drivers being in contention. So what is it? I don't really know. I really am. I'm at a loss. I don't think it's Chase Elliott. I don't think it's Chase Elliott.
I've asked a lot of people that question, and I've heard a lot of different answers. But there's no universal, wave. I don't know. It's interesting because it comes at a really bad time for NASCAR as you're negotiating your next.
Comes at pretty much the worst possible. This is pretty much the worst possible year for this to be the case. Yeah.
And
if anything, at least you would take like flat ratings or something.
Yeah.
But
I know, and I get it. Like not every sport, but most every sport, with the exception of maybe the NFL, is experiencing some kind of decline in ratings, because there's not people are consuming sports the same way, but this is a big number.
And here's the other thing, Jordan, like, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now or listening to are saying, well, it's because of, like, say the commercials, or it's because of the racing is not as good or whatever. Right. But it's tough for me to accept that as an explanation, because, like, let's say it is the commercials. Oh, there's been a lot of commercials this year. The commercials are too much or something. Right. Well, there's always been commercials. Like, and how is this year, this part of the season, that much different than any other year, that all of a sudden this mass group of people all at once would just be like, nah, I'm done. That's the last straw, like, or whatever. Or the racing. Yeah, the racing's not been like amazing, but I don't think it's been terrible. Like, it's just okay. Right.
But last year the racing was really good, right? Like, there was all this hype, especially on intermediate tracks.
Yeah.
So you would, and maybe I'm not understanding this situation. There's all of this like excitement about Fontana. Like, this is the perfect track for this car. And it put on a great race last year. We're going back, and guess what? Fontana delivered. Like, I am adamant. if you watch the Fontana race this year, you're like, damn, this is good stuff. Like, I like this. I'm going to watch again next week. Well, Las Vegas didn't. There was no carryover. And like, so I don't believe that. I mean, listen, yeah, maybe at some tracks that's true, but I think more often than not, like, the racing's been good. The racing was good last year. There was a lot of, there was enough buzz about the quality of racing and the unpredictability of it that I think people would be kind of juiced about what they were going to see this year.
Chase looked like he was pretty gassed at the end there.
Yeah.
Sitting down by his car. But a lot of the drivers were talking about how hot.
Bubba Wallace was on the ground too. So Chase was on the ground too. I don't want to make just like a Chase thing, but Bubba was on the ground too, and it was
and afterwards, NASCAR reported that several drivers were treated and released from the care center, and that's different because when NASCAR, when a driver goes to the care center, say like, they make the mandatory trip even though they're not hurt, right? The NASCAR will say they were seen and released, or they were checked and released, or something, right? But if NASCAR says they were treated and released, that means they got something. So like, I think I saw Byron's name on there, maybe Cindric, a couple other guys. So I'm thinking that they probably went and got an IV after the race.
Probably dehydrated.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, and it wasn't, what is it, in the 70s there? It's not that hot.
It was warm today. Like it was a warm day.
But that's not a good sign there that, we're not in the heat of the summer yet. And if guys are getting this gassed already, in these hot cars, anyway, something to monitor for sure as we go forward. Especially, they're like we saw that the mufflers at the Clash that caused a lot of heat problems on a not very warm day in LA, and they're going to be running. Yes, for sure, and they're going to be running the mufflers at the Chicago Street Race in the middle of July, which is going to be real hot if that is going to lead to more. If they haven't fixed whatever made them so hot, made the car so hot with the mufflers on. So anyway, a lot to sort of look at there. One thing that you did get to experience this weekend, or we did get to see for the first time ever, the Truck Series race was the first NASCAR race ever to have oval rain tires. Now, already a pet peeve here.
Oh boy.
People are yelling at me even on Twitter when I called them rain tires. It's not rain tires. It's wet weather tires. Okay. Are we really going to is there really going to be a divide? And I get why people are saying it. It's because they don't want the fans to think that NASCAR is going to use them to race in the rain. So they're wet weather tires. They're not rain tires. Okay. They're rain tires. The rain made the ground wet. And when the ground is wet, you use the rain tires to go around the track. Okay. Why does it matter what they're called? The point is they use these rain tires.
Names matter, Jeff.
I guess. People are very yelling at me on Twitter about this.
Like wet weather tires. Make everybody happy for once.
They're rain tires. Anyway,
wet tires.
The rain tires, they didn't really need them actually when they used them the first time.
Okay.
It was mostly dry, let's be honest.
And you could have started that race in what the track was at, is the conversation I've had. Plus pit road was an absolute mess.
Okay. So, but the good thing is they got to see that the tires wore. Talk about tire wear. Those tires had wear.
Yes, they did.
Tread. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And if Goodyear can do that with those tires, maybe that's something to look at for the future.
Make a fall off tire for the Cup car, please.
The other part of that was that drivers and teams wish that NASCAR had been more aggressive by, when they end up calling the race. It was pretty late, the rain had come back, but even if it's a drizzle, the drivers are saying, well, we already tried these earlier. Why do you got to drive? First of all, they dried the whole track later just so they could put the slicks back on. There was a little bit of just and Eldon Sawyer came out later, I guess, in an interview with Bob and somebody else.
Yeah, that was,
maybe we could have been more aggressive. I'm sure they'll look at that, but the point is they've now used these tires in competition. They know it works, something that they have, as a lever to pull, since we're talking about levers in several cases in this podcast. So there's another one that if it gets into a rainy situation, New Hampshire, right?
New lights there. That's the thing too. So
yeah, right. So, a place like that, right? You're not going to
encouraging.
Yeah. So that was something.
It was, I thought I was it went about as well as I thought it could go. And I was impressed with how it did it. You can pick apart, maybe you could have started that race 20, 30 minutes earlier. I didn't like how many laps it took between the switch off from wet weather tires, excuse me, wet weather tires to the slicks, and I feel like that could have been more streamlined. I wouldn't be opposed to leaving it up to the teams almost to some level of saying,
Yes,
hey,
that's true too. Yeah.
I didn't like how you closed pit road, and then it was like that was a long stoppage there coming out of an already delayed race. It just felt like there was too much downtime, and I felt really bad for the fans sitting in the grandstand. And I talked to quite a few of them over the weekend who were there on Friday, and they're like they were unhappy, like really unhappy, and I understand that, like. And so, but I get it from the perspective of like this, the first time they were used, like, let's not rush into this and just assume that we're going to know everything that's going to happen. This was kind of like a kind of wading into the water, if you will, instead of jumping in the deep end. And for the first time, I was encouraged. I think you could probably learn a few things from this in terms of the implementation of it. But I think it's something to look forward to going forward. At least you have this tool in your toolbox you can lean on.
Obviously, the Long Beach Grand Prix was today as well, but I don't really feel like we're in a great position to talk about it. I don't think you got to see any of it.
I saw nothing of it.
Because it was head to head with NASCAR. You were at the track. I had it on sort of at a lower volume, watching both races at the same time. Kyle Kirkwood wins. It's pretty exciting, actually, end of the race with Romain Grosjean trying to track him down and having more push to pass. Ultimately, Grosjean finished second again, still looking for that first win. He had some sort of notable incidents. I mean, like at one point, Pato O'Ward dive bombs Scott Dixon. Dixon, I don't know if he thought Pato was going to cut him a break or maybe back out, or just didn't realize he was going to make that move so late. And Dixon goes into the tires and was not happy afterwards. Couple things like that. Rossi on the very last lap stuffs it in the tires. So it was an eventful race, but I just don't feel like I can. I mean, it's tough when you're watching two races at once to try to keep track of everything going on. Most of my focus is on NASCAR, so not that we're an IndyCar podcast, but we like to talk about all forms of motorsports if we can. And it just, sorry, if you're looking for Long Beach Grand Prix talk, I don't really have.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I saw nothing of it. I did go back and watch the Texas race, which I missed because I was at the racetrack for that. That was a heck of a race. That was as good as advertised. It's unfortunate. I get everybody's got their own agendas and why they do things, but it really sucks when you've got these two races at the same time on two different networks, and I think it is really, really cool when you've got different fan bases watching different racing at the same time, and they're all chiming in on social media, and it feels like we're all just kind of sitting at the bar together. Whether it's a day when it's F1 and IndyCar, then NASCAR, like it was for St. Petersburg, the IndyCar race there. It sucks because I do feel like you're fracturing an audience, which is already kind of splintered the way it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not that that's whatever rating that IndyCar was going to get on NBC. I'm sure NASCAR would have gotten at least some of those viewers. I'm not saying that all IndyCar fans would have automatically watched the NASCAR
another reason, Jeff,
race,
right there.
I mean, like, I think it's better when I think motorsports fans should be motorsports fans, and each form of racing has its own sort of little unique things about it. Some people like some things about it, some people don't about each series, but I like it better when everybody's just watching racing together. And I hate that, like you said, when it's I get it, because I mean, the Long Beach Grand Prix, I mean that was starting at noon, whatever, local time, right?
On the West Coast. I mean,
they had to start it then. They're not going to start it too much later than that, especially to get on NBC. NBC's not going to give them a 6 p.m., 7 p.m. primetime spot on a Sunday night for Long Beach. And NASCAR obviously is trying to go later start time so they can get more ratings, right? Like, but this is the kind of, I hate when that happens, but it's not.
It felt unavoidable to some, it felt unavoidable. Like, you don't know how you do it this weekend. Hopefully going forward, it's not a problem. Can I ask you a question about something else that happened at Martinsville this weekend?
Yes.
What did you think of John Nemechek's car catching on fire after the Xfinity Series race?
At that point, when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm officially over burnouts now. But then Larson had a great burnout. He did a burnout all the way around the track. So, but yeah, like when I saw that car, well, so first of all, I was watching with my daughter because my wife was at work and I had both of my girls. And so I had told them like, look, we can't start bedtime. I can't put you guys to bed until this race is over. I've got to watch the end of this Xfinity race. Sorry. Like, I don't know why I said sorry. They want to stay up later. Right. So I'm watching the race with my girls and I'm like, oh, look, like, this car just won. Okay. It's going to be done. And I was like, watch this, guys. Like a lot of the cars, when they win, they do a burnout, which is like where the tires, there's like a lot of smoke. So I'm sitting there with one girl in each arm and all of a sudden it catches on fire. And my 4-year-old's like, Daddy, why is that car on fire? And I started getting like super nervous because he wasn't getting out of the car. And like, first he goes forward, he's driving with it. Then he starts like backing up and the car is like burning. And I wanted to be like, dude, get out of the car. And I'm like, oh gosh. So I was just like, oh yeah, sometimes he catches his car on fire. Isn't that silly? Car did that earlier this year too. Ha ha, wow. I was like trying to play it off, but I was like, get out of the car. I have my 2 kids here. Can't you see you burned alive in my car? Anyway, it kind of made me nervous, but I was just like, what? This is done. Like, let's just stop with the burnouts. Like burnouts are so unoriginal at this point. Like just stop them all. But then again, like I said,
this was the hot take I thought I was going to get from this.
So do you not agree with it?
I just had a kind of a bet with a media colleague of ours about, we thought that Jeff was going to take the position of like, ban burnouts. These are all stupid.
No, I'm not saying ban them. I'm just saying like, all right, this is just, come on. Like, but like I said, then again, Larson today, he does his burnout and I believe he did it all the way around the track, which that's like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool right there. So, yeah, I'm not really in like, we don't need to do like cars catching on fire type burnouts, like with Zane Smith and Nemechek. I don't know. Like, that's a little much. Don't you think? No? Am I in the wrong here? Am I just old man yelling at the cloud once again?
I hope so. I'm not ready. I'm not going to ban them. Like, whatever. Honestly, to me, it was like a thing of, it's at that point, like, yesterday, if it would hurt the track, I didn't care because the race was over and there was enough time to repair the track, right? So it wasn't going to impact anything that happened on Sunday. And the car, Nemechek's got to answer for the car to his team owner. So it was like, if you want to do it because you're not really negatively hurting anyone, maybe besides your own team owner. So go for it. I don't care. If you want to do a burnout and your truck or car catches fire, well, then that's on you. As long as you're not holding up the rest of the racing action because you screwed up the track, which didn't happen. It's like, cool, you do whatever, man. You do you.
Yeah. I'd rather see everybody have like their own little wrestling type celebration, like the backflip or the bow
or the wheel with Logano or the watermelon.
Yeah, everybody have your own sort of trademark thing. Come up with the watermelon thing.
What would your trademark be?
Mine?
Yeah, crotch chop.
A crotch chop?
Like the DX crotch chop. I could see you doing that.
You think I would do that?
Yeah, I could see you doing the DX crotch chop. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow, I can't believe that's your view of me. No, I was thinking that I would be like whining and complaining and yelling about something. I would get out of the car and start going like this, like wagging my finger in outrage about something.
Speaking of which, podcast listener of ours gave you a nice gift this weekend, a string of pearls, which I've got in my briefcase. I wish I had them here, but they gave me a nice, I don't think they're real.
A string of pearls?
Yeah, a string of pearls.
A podcast listener gave me a string of pearls?
Yep. They gave
them to you to give to me?
Yes, a string of pearls. So as you can probably guess the connotation there.
So I'm just clutching pearls.
Maybe.
That's what I do on this podcast.
Yeah, yes, and they might have used Coda as an example of how they were very entertained by turn 1 at Coda, and you seem to hate all the fun.
Yes, triple overtime because I didn't want it to be a clown show, so I was clutching pearls.
Yeah, it's a nice little gift. Your daughters might like it, so it'll be cute to give them.
Well, they are into whatever dress up necklaces. So yeah, pass it along. Well, I'll see you next week at Talladega.
I will bring it there. Can't wait.
Good luck getting that in your carry-on bags. Sir, you have a string of pearls in your bag. Are those yours,
That
sir?
wouldn't even crack the top 50 of the weirdest things I've had in my carry-on bag. Okay.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know. I definitely don't want to know this one. Jordan, I feel bad, but I did snipe you last week with the Was It a Good Race poll. I finally got my first win. Again, I do feel bad. The only reason you lost was because you underestimated the Bristol Dirt Backlash, because it was a better race than people voted for, right? I even had a decently well-known Cup Series driver text me this week and go, yo, what in the world are people voting for on your poll? Like, how is that was a good race. Like, how are people voting it so low? I just wrote back and I said, they don't like Bristol Dirt. They don't. I'm not the only one. But some people could not acknowledge, which I understand, that was an okay race. I mean, again, like I'm with you. I rapped about it. But like, no matter how good that race was, a lot of people were not going to vote no matter what. So you got bit by that. Unfortunate for you. You weren't even that far off, but I sniped you.
You're not going to win them all.
Right. So now I have to go first and try to figure out what the heck people are going to think of this Martinsville race, which is tough because I don't think it was that great. Was it a bad race? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to go under 50%, but I don't know. I'm just going to say 52. I think it's going to be close. No?
I want to swear. You took my number.
Really? Right on the nose?
52. 52 is my number. I thought about this all day.
Fair game is to just go 0.1 above or below. So it's your turn to do that.
No, I don't.
If that was your number, just say higher or lower. That's it. That's all you have to do. I set the over under.
What was Martinsville last year? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, could you come to the podcast prepared, please?
Oh geez, you're asking a lot here. Can you fill some time while I look up the? Okay, here's last year's numbers. Martinsville won last. Oh, I might have blown this. Martinsville won last year was 18.7%. Martinsville won last year. That 18.7%. That equals. This is how low this was in history. That is the 5th lowest race ever in the poll. This race was better than that, though. No?
Yes, it was. I would. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was better. There's no doubt about it.
Would you like to know the Hail Melon from last year?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, please.
Okay, Hail Melon, which was really not that great of a race up until the finish, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last 50 laps, it turned into a strategy race, which I thought was pretty good. Yeah.
That was a 78.9.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that helps you at all.
Not really, because now I kind of want to go lower than 52.
Because the 18.7? Yeah, people were mad about that spring race last year. Real mad.
You know what? I'm going to do it. I'll go 45.
Ooh, way lower. Okay. 45 for you, 52 for me. It seems like Elon has given us a reprieve. It looks like the poll, at least for one more week, is going to be up. He is now saying on Twitter that the new date for all of us losing our verification is April 20th. So if he comes through on that and takes the poll along with that, then this, I guess, could be the last poll. We'll just keep doing it every week until he takes the ability to vote away and makes everybody buy Twitter blue.
There you go.
I'm not going to make everybody do that again. And it seems like we found a decent alternative on this straw poll website, assuming Twitter doesn't suppress the links like have they done with Substack. I don't know if you guys have followed that, but anyway, that's a whole other thing.
You know what next week is, right?
We get to see each other next week at Talladega.
Yes. And it will be our first podcast on video when we're in the same room.
Well, how are we going to do that? No, how are we even going to do that?
I don't think it's that hard. We just set up a camera and record.
Yeah, but we're not going to be on Zoom. We do this on Zoom now. We're going to be in the same room.
It's not that complicated. We just set up a camera and in the room and have it recorded, and we just upload the video. I don't really think it's that complicated.
Oh, I'm going to have to think about this. Okay.
It's really not you're overthinking this.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I could literally take my laptop and record us and just have it right on my laptop.
You have the same laptop. You have like a broken laptop that you've been using, even though the company has sent you a new
They give me
laptop.
2 brand new laptops they've sent me.
And you're still using this one. It's the same reason. Like I was thinking about this, because you got caught up in the Android versus iPhone thing this week.
Oh,
and
why are you such a snob?
because why not try something like better technology? You have
There
2
isn't
new
better
laptops.
technology.
The iPhone's not better than Android.
There was nothing you can do on your phone that I can't do on mine.
Well, one thing you could communicate with people easier on a nice group text with very nice blue bubbles and not ruin everybody else's group text with the green bubbles by being the one person. Well, why do you look so mad?
Nothing. This is such a petty, stupid thing.
Look, if you had group text and you can't even name the group text if somebody in it has an Android. As long as everybody's got the iPhone, you can name the group text. You can put it's great. You can see that your thing was delivered. You can put the little reactions to it, like thumbs up or ha ha. But with yours, no, I can't. Yeah. Anyway, well, on that note, can't wait to see you next week, Jordan.
Yeah, I can't wait, buddy. Be great. Be fun.
Oh boy. All right. Well, everybody, thanks as always for listening to the Teardown, and we will talk to you live from Talladega next week. See everybody. Bye. All right, YouTube people. That was it. Jordan can escape. How weird was it with the dude coming in behind Jordan during the thing?
Didn't even flinch.
I got distracted during it, and I was just trying to talk and like not focus on it.
He was tapping me on my shoulder. I didn't even bother. I ignored him.
He was tapping you on the shoulder while you're doing a podcast?
Yeah, he was trying to get my attention. I was just like ignoring him.
Ah.
I'm unflappable.
No. What?
I'm unflappable.
What did you go into somebody's room there, Jordan?
No, they reserved a radio room for me. There's only 2 radio rooms here, so they reserved one of the 2 radio rooms, and then one of the TV folks had taken it over, and they're not supposed to, and they were just like, "Oh, all right, well, I'm using this room, or so, whatever."
Oh, well, there you go. The things you see on YouTube that you wouldn't hear on the podcast.
Broom closet, this is how the sausage gets made.
Yep. All right. Well, Talladega fortunately has some very nice rooms that we can use.
Yeah,
so.
we just set up and it'll be perfect.
Yep.
Easy peasy. All right, later. I gotta go right.
All right. See you, everybody. Have a good one.